All right, so get this, listeners. We're going deep on the UAE. Their plan to basically become like the AI superpower by 2031, not just, dipping their toes in the water. Like, they're aiming for the top.
Right.
And we've got a ton of material to work with here, right?
You do.
We've got government reports, strategic objectives, like all of the nitty-gritty of how they're going to break this down into different sectors.
Yeah.
We even have some comparisons to how other countries are tackling this whole AI thing. So
Yeah. It's going
to be pretty fascinating.
to be really interesting to see. I think what's really intriguing here is that, a lot of times we think about Silicon Valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe China when we think about, leading the charge in AI. But the UAE is like, hey, wait a minute, we're going to get in on this too.
Yeah. They're not messing around.
No.
They're putting some serious cash behind it.
Yeah.
We're talking like a AED 335 billion boost
Wow.
to their economy that they're hoping to get through AI.
Yeah. That's ambitious.
That's not, pocket change.
Yeah, no.
That's a significant chunk of change, and it's all tied into this UAE Centennial 2071 plan, right?
Right.
This long-term vision they have for the future of their country. And it's interesting because it really is coming from the top down, right?
It is.
This is Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum himself has said, quote, "We want the UAE to be the world's most prepared country for AI."
And they're not waiting.
Right.
They're not waiting around.
They're building that surfboard.
They are building that surfboard. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So to get this done, right, they've laid out these 8 strategic objectives,
Right.
kind of like the pillars of how they're going to make this happen. And one that really caught my eye was this UAI brand that they're creating.
Yes.
It's almost like,
A stamp of approval.
yeah, a stamp of approval
Right.
or like a mark of quality or something.
Yep. Attracting global talent and businesses. Kind of like, you think about what Singapore did with their Smart Nation campaign, but with a bit of,
With a desert twist.
yeah, desert twist to
Okay.
it. So,
It's an interesting strategy because, I think when we think about, like a top AI researcher,
yeah.
they might be drawn to Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of the mecca,
The known quantity.
the known quantity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the UAE is saying, hey, we've got these tax incentives.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a government that's really actively investing in this. So it could be, it could be a draw.
Right. It could be tempting for some folks to say, you know what, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to a place that's, really putting its money where its mouth is and really trying to make this happen.
Right.
The question is, right,
Yeah.
can they lure those big brains away from those established
Right. Can they compete?
ecosystems, right? Like Silicon Valley's been around for decades.
Right.
And it's a well-oiled machine, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough to compete with that. But
So we'll see. And then on top of that, right,
yeah.
they're not just relying on importing talent. They're also going to try and train up their own massive AI workforce.
Yes.
We're talking upskilling like a third
Wow.
of their STEM graduates every year.
It's a lot.
That's 2,000 students every year
Yeah.
that they're going to try to pump out
It's huge.
with AI expertise.
I mean, imagine trying to instill, cutting edge AI knowledge in that many people year after year, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about the technical skills either.
Right.
They're also really focusing on the ethical considerations, the societal impacts.
Right, right.
So it's really a holistic approach to AI education, which is
Yeah, it's really interesting. And so, we've talked about the UAE and its already existing strengths, right?
right.
They're a powerhouse in sectors like energy, logistics, tourism.
Sure.
And, they're not just resting on their laurels, right? They're looking at how to use AI to supercharge all these sectors that they're already good at.
Right.
But they're also kind of, eyeing up
Yeah.
these emerging fields like healthcare and cybersecurity where AI is poised to really change things.
It's a smart move, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's leveraging your existing strengths, but also positioning yourself at the forefront of innovation in these critical areas.
Right.
So it's a classic play from the business playbook,
Yes.
but just applied on like a national scale,
Right.
which is fascinating.
It is. And it's a big bet.
It is.
But I mean, they seem to be pretty serious about it.
Yeah.
So let's unpack some of these sectors a little bit more, right?
Okay.
So resources and energy, right?
Yes.
The UAE is already a major player. They're like the 5th largest oil exporter globally. And they're already using AI to optimize extraction, but they're also looking, further down the line
At the bigger picture.
at the bigger picture, right?
Right. So think renewable energy, smart grids, even AI-powered water recycling, right?
Right.
This is where it gets really interesting, is they're not just using AI to kind of maintain the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
They're using it to drive this transition to a more sustainable future, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, on the logistics and transport side, right?
Yeah.
We've got Dubai's airport,
Global hub.
global hub.
Yeah.
Jebel Ali Port, massive, right?
Huge.
They're looking at how AI can streamline everything.
Yeah. Imagine this. You land in Dubai,
Mm-hmm.
your bags are already whisked away by AI-powered robots,
Right.
and then you've got like your personalized AI travel guide that
Yeah.
pops up and says, hey, based on your preferences, in real-time data, here's the perfect itinerary.
Right.
So it's not just efficiency, it's about enhancing the entire tourist experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that gets me really excited about AI, right?
Cool.
Like it's that futuristic stuff, but then we got to talk about the potential downsides too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We've mentioned job displacement.
Yeah.
But is it really realistic to think that everyone can be retrained for these
Right.
AI-powered jobs?
Right.
What about the people who just aren't,
Aren't cut out for that.
cut out for this, like tech-heavy future?
That's a valid concern, right?
Yeah.
I mean, their commitment to retraining is admirable, but I think it remains to be seen how effectively
Mm-hmm.
they can really reskill their workforce, especially those in sectors that are most vulnerable to automation. I
Right.
think it's going to require a lot more than just offering coding boot camps or something like that.
Right. Yeah, and it's not just about jobs either, right?
No.
Think about AI bias.
Oh, yeah.
Algorithms
Really.
trained on biased data are just gonna, make those problems worse.
Existing inequalities, for sure.
How's the UAE planning to ensure that their AI systems are fair and equitable?
It's a good question.
I mean, that's a whole other layer of complexity
It is.
on top of all of this.
Yeah.
So we've talked about, like, the UAE's overall vision, right?
Yeah.
Some of the potential hiccups they might run into along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But let's actually, dig into these 8 strategic objectives.
Yeah, let's get into the details.
Yeah, because these are like the blueprints, right?
Exactly. This is the
But for how they plan to actually make this AI dream a reality.
Yeah, and it all starts with, really solidifying the UAE as like a global hub, right,
Mm-hmm.
for AI.
Mhm.
And that's where this whole UAI branding comes in, which we talked about a little bit earlier.
Right. It's almost like
Like a seal of approval, right?
Yeah.
Like if you see that, you know that this is something that's high quality coming out of the UAE.
a mark of quality. But a brand alone isn't going to cut it,
Yeah.
right?
No, of course not.
I mean, what concrete steps are they taking?
Yeah.
What are they actually doing?
Don't attract the talent,
Right.
the best and brightest minds in AI.
Well, they're talking about hosting these major international AI events, right?
Mm-hmm.
Creating research collaborations with,
Mm-hmm.
top universities around the world. Even a special visa program they're considering
Okay.
to attract AI talent specifically.
Wow.
Tax breaks, all these incentives for
Yeah.
companies, for individuals, they're really pulling out all the stops.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But I mean, the competition's pretty stiff out there.
It is.
Can they really compete with the big dogs, right?
Right.
Like Silicon Valley and London?
That's the big question, right? I mean, those ecosystems
Yeah.
have been built over, decades.
Yeah.
But I think what the UAE has going for it is they have, a government
Mm-hmm.
that is fully committed to this.
They are willing to invest a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're not afraid to experiment,
Yeah.
So it's a gamble, but it's, I think, a calculated one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bold move.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too because
Yeah.
it's not just about attracting outside talent, right?
Yeah, absolutely not.
They're also really focused on
Building that local
building up their own AI workforce.
talent pool. Yeah.
They've set this goal of upskilling a third
I know. It's ambitious.
of their STEM grads
That's a lot of people.
every year with AI expertise.
It's a lot of people.
That's a massive undertaking.
It is.
I mean, it's one thing to teach,
Yeah.
a few thousand students about AI, but to do it at this scale
Mm.
year after year.
Yeah.
I mean, that requires
Serious commitment.
a serious commitment to education and training.
Yeah.
And it can't just be like surface level stuff.
No, of course
Um,
not. This is cutting edge. This is, the stuff that is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
So how do you even begin to create an education system that can keep up
Right.
with that pace of change?
Yeah, that's a huge question.
It's a challenge, no doubt.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to be incredibly adaptable, constantly updating the curriculum, partnering with industry experts,
Right.
creating opportunities for hands-on learning. It's not going to be easy, but I think it's absolutely essential if they want to create that sustainable AI ecosystem.
So they're attracting talent.
Yeah.
They're building skills, focusing on these key sectors. But, now let's get down to like the actual brass tacks. Yeah, like where is this AI going to be actually deployed, right? Like in the real world.
And that's what the second objective is all about, right?
Okay.
It's leveraging AI to boost their competitiveness in these key sectors. And, we've talked about, energy, logistics, and tourism.
Right.
But the strategy actually goes deeper than that.
Okay.
It outlines specific initiatives for each sector.
So it's not just a case of like,
Sprinkling AI magic dust.
yeah, sprinkling some AI on it
And everything's going to be better.
and hoping for the best.
No. They're being very strategic
Okay.
about where they focus their efforts.
Okay.
Like, for example, the energy sector. They're not just looking at, okay, how can we optimize oil extraction with AI?
Right.
They've got these AI-powered systems that can do that. But they're also looking at, how can AI manage the transition to renewables?
Right.
How can we create more efficient systems for things like water recycling,
Right.
smart grids?
It's looking at like the bigger picture of like how can we use AI to
Solve the big
solve these really complex problems
Yeah,
that are facing the world today.
absolutely.
What about logistics? I know they're really keen on,
They want to leverage that, global transit hub status.
yeah.
For sure. So they're looking at AI-powered solutions for everything from, air traffic management, baggage handling to, like, we talked about those personalized experiences for tourists.
Right.
Imagine an AI system that can predict your needs, tailor your entire trip from the moment you land to the moment you leave.
Right.
So it's not just about efficiency. It's about really enhancing the entire experience.
Okay, but let's step back for a second.
Get real.
Yeah, get real. I mean, how realistic is all of this?
Right.
Are we talking about like, some AI-powered utopia, or are there potential downsides that we need to consider here?
Yeah. I mean, like any technology, AI has its limitations, right? And I think one of the biggest challenges is going to be making sure these systems are reliable and safe.
Right.
I mean, imagine like an AI-powered air traffic control system malfunctions, right?
Right. Right. The consequences
That's what you've got,
could
right?
be disastrous.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
And what about, the ethical side of things?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. We've got algorithms making decisions that affect people's lives.
Yeah.
How do you make sure those algorithms are fair? How do you ensure transparency?
Yeah. How do you prevent discrimination?
Right.
AI systems are only as good as the data they're trained on.
Right.
So, if that data is biased, the AI is going to be biased too.
Yeah.
And that's a crucial question. And it's one that I think they are starting to address, right? I mean, they've created a council specifically to oversee, ethical considerations related to AI, but it's still early days, right? This is uncharted territory, and there are a lot of unanswered questions.
So, they've got the talent, the infrastructure, the ambition.
The vision.
But these ethical and safety considerations are still
They're works in progress.
works in progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an interesting kind of balancing act.
It is.
They're trying to pull off here.
Yeah, and that's just, the tip of the iceberg, right? I mean, and they're also looking at healthcare, cybersecurity, education. Like,
Right.
their ambition knows no bounds.
Yeah.
But I think, we've only touched on 2 of their 8 objectives.
Yeah, I know. We got to take a breath here for a second.
I know. There's a lot to unpack.
There's so much to unpack.
This deep dive is getting pretty deep.
It is getting pretty deep.
It is.
But, it's only going to get deeper as we explore their plans for, cutting edge research, how they're going to build this data infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then like,
how do they govern all of this?
yeah, how do they govern this AI revolution?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've all had a minute to like, reboot our brains here.
After that last segment,
A lot to take in.
there's a lot. We talked about the UAE's AI ambitions, their plans to dominate these key sectors, build up this workforce, but how are they actually going to do it?
Yeah, the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, like how's the rubber meeting the AI road?
Right.
How's it all going to actually work in practice?
Well, and this is where I think it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Their seventh objective is all about really bringing AI into the heart of the UAE government itself.
Okay.
So they've got this thing called the UAE Artificial Intelligence and Blockchain Council.
Okay.
And it's folks from all 7 Emirates, all levels of government, federal and local.
So this is like the AI brain trust.
Exactly.
Right.
That's a good way to put it.
That's figuring out how to integrate AI into all those, everyday government services that we rely on.
Exactly. Their mission is to say, okay, where can we make things more efficient? Where can we provide better services to citizens and residents?
Right.
And where can we actually even support smarter policy decisions with the help of AI?
So instead of waiting weeks for some government paperwork to go through, AI could zip it through the system in a matter of hours.
Exactly.
Or it could analyze massive amounts of data to help the government make really important decisions about urban planning, resource allocation.
Exactly. You're getting it.
Okay.
And what's interesting too is they're not keeping all of this knowledge, siloed within the government. They've got these things called national AI challenges.
Okay.
Where they invite, people from universities, the private sector, anyone who has a good idea to basically come and brainstorm AI solutions.
It's like a giant hackathon.
Exactly. For the future of their nation.
That's so cool that they're really tapping into that collective brain power.
They realize this is bigger than just the government, right?
Right.
It needs to be a whole of society approach.
So that's all within the workings of government, right? But what about AI's impact on, everyday life?
Right. How does this affect people?
For the average person in the UAE?
Well, and that's their 8th objective.
Okay.
It's taking AI beyond the government and saying, okay, how do we apply this to sectors that really directly impact people's lives?
Okay.
And, they're already doing this in things like traffic management. They're using AI to monitor driver fatigue to prevent accidents.
Okay.
Makes sense, especially, in a place like Dubai.
Yeah, lots of cars on the road.
Busy roads, yeah.
Yeah.
But where else could this go?
Right.
I mean, imagine, personalized healthcare recommendations delivered right to your phone based on your medical history, your lifestyle.
Right.
AI-powered tutors
Right.
that are tailoring educational content to each student's learning style. And then remember those, enhanced tourist experiences we were talking about?
Right, right.
This is where all of that comes to life.
It sounds pretty utopian. But again, we gotta talk about the other side of that coin.
Right.
All this AI integration could lead to, job losses.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be one of the biggest
Those jobs get automated.
challenges.
Yeah.
For sure. And this is where, their commitment to reskilling and upskilling is really going to be key.
Right.
And it's not just about offering training, right? They're also working on robust career guidance to help people transition into these
right.
AI-driven fields.
Yeah, it's a huge shift.
It is.
Both socially and economic that they're going to have to manage. And then, all those ethical concerns around AI.
Right. We can't forget about
We can't just, sweep those under the rug.
Right. I mean, we've got algorithms making decisions that affect people's lives.
How do you bake in that fairness?
How do you make sure it's transparent?
Right.
They've established the Ethics Council, but I think, as we discussed, this is a new frontier.
Yeah.
And they're trying to be proactive, but questions about bias, data privacy, even the potential for AI to be misused,
Mm-hmm.
those are going to be ongoing challenges, I think, for everyone, not just the UAE.
Yeah, I think, taking a step back and looking at this whole AI strategy,
Yeah.
it's ambitious. It's really comprehensive.
It is. It's impressive.
And honestly, kind of mind-blowing when you think about the scope of what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And they're not just content with,
Any participant.
being a part of the AI revolution.
Right.
They want to be leading the charge.
They want to set the agenda.
Setting the agenda,
Yeah.
shaping the future of AI, not just for themselves,
For the work.
but potentially for the whole world. I mean, it's a bold vision,
It is.
and it leaves us with a lot to think about.
It does. It does.
As the UAE moves forward with all these AI plans,
Mhm.
how will their approach impact the global AI landscape?
Yeah.
Will they actually succeed in becoming like
The world's leading.
the AI nation, the leading AI nation?
Yeah.
I mean, time will tell.
It will. It will. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Well, hey, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep those brains buzzing.